Today's story was written by Reddit user ZeonoxButBetter. Garcham Royal Convoy, Sol, Heliosphere. Warp complete. All systems online. Rejoining mainframe network in 5 seconds. We have arrived, Your Majesty, General Gestrom said graciously. Very well, continue the planned route to Sol 3. I ordered as the ship's engines reignite and join the formation once again. Ah, Sol. I knew we'd get the right world in the end. The one with the right distance from its parent star and at a size that will provide comfortable gravity. It's simply perfect. The only problem is pest. When we found Sol 3, or what I like to call New Nebraska, it had some local life form living on it. Disgusting greens and blues instead of our bright warm yellow covered said planet. A forest full of those plants, with some active and semi-active low intelligence creatures who roams in the undergrowth, and a single intelligent sentient being, the humans. Those pesky apes claimed the planet and all of its land for themselves. Who did they think they are? Okay, fair enough, it's their cradle homeworld after all, but I'm not going to waste another 1,000,000 years to search for another planet just because some stupid bipeds refuse to hand it over. Is the radiation bombing complete? Yes, Your Majesty. The radiation asteroid bombing has been completed, the General said, displaying an image on a screen next to me. As you can see, the entire surface landmass has been hammered down and the local life has been eradicated, he explains as the now red and brownish barren surface, covered in craters, enveloped the whole land. The whole planet has been cleaned, except for those. And what are we going to do with the H2O? I asked, pointing at the sickish toxic substances that covered like almost 2/3 of the entire surface. My apologies, Your Majesty, but as we know, Sol 3 is a water ocean carrying planet, and based on our previous experience, drying the whole ocean using radiation heat is both hard and uneconomical. So, the committee has decided that it's better to wait until colonization process to start before we remove the waters from this planet. I shrugged as the General continued to speak. But don't worry, Your Majesty. As has been proposed by our scientists, this substance, water, is actually pretty useful for us. How so? Well, as we know, other than being a damn weak shielding material, water is also a pretty dangerous substance, with a drop of it capable of dissolving almost all living organisms in our species catalogue. Wait, how can the local species in Sol 3 survive in an environment full of this water? I said, cutting off the General's explanation. According to our experts, the species here may have been adapted to be compatible with water. In fact, I think water is now essential for their life cycles, and they cannot live without water for a long amount of time, he said. A whole species that depend on that death liquid? I thought to myself. Anyway, after some consideration, instead of vaporizing the entire ocean, why not use it for our war effort? The Federation may have banned the production of chemical warfare, but they didn't say anything about collecting it from a random planet in the middle of nowhere. I nod as the General finishes his presentation. Right before Sol 3 came into view, a barren, brownish planet covered in holes and craters from our continuous bombardment, with only some dark blue patch surviving here and there as a splash of colour for the sphere, surrounded by thousands of our ships, ready to land for the replanting ceremony I come for. Touching down on a high mountain next to the ocean, I stepped out from my royal ship into the death wasteland, wind blowing inlands, giving a nice breeze and a good mode of transportation for our spore seeds. Around me, battalions from the entire operation gather ready for the ceremony. I walked up to the podium as a major handed me the activation button for the seed release mechanism. "Soldier of Garcham," I exclaimed, pulling the attention of the whole crowd. "For thousands of years we've searched for a new home for our ever-growing population. Countless generations and life has passed to save our nation. And today marked the end of that journey. Today, you've completed the quest from our great-grandfather, and I thank you all for this achievement," I said, spawning barrage of cheers and applause to erupt from the rows of soldiers. Smiling with glee, I hover my hand above the button, ready to release the spores and start the final phase before unidentified object surfacing from the ocean, an officer reported. All eyes, including mine, shifted as we looked into the deep blue body of water right next to our mountain. A black, smooth, rectangular-shaped object appearing from the water, its bulky form raising from the depths, water running from its sides as it displaced them. "What is that?" I asked one of the officers, who just raised his shoulder in confusion. But before I or anyone present can question anything, a massive flock of that same object appear all around the ocean. The once dark blue water now covered in black creature stuff or something. Dumbfounded, we all stare at them, waiting for whatever thing they would do. Suddenly, dozens of hatches open from every and each one of those black objects, all in unison, creating beautiful patterns that hypnotize us for a second. And in that very second, a bunch of cloud pillars raised from the holes. No, not pillars, rockets. Missiles. It's a missile barrage. Tons upon tons of missiles launched from that thing all across the planet, destroying bases, stations, and ships that have flown too close for the ceremony. It's the humans. They use the ocean depth to shield themselves from our radiation asteroids. It must be thick enough down there, shouted the scientists as shockwaves from various explosions reaches our position. We should have drained the ocean. In a blink of a second, the planet lit up once again, just like when we started the bombardment. In shock, I froze to watch the destruction of my forces. Thermonuclear bomb explosions on mountain ranges around me, destroying the seeds containers, my army, and me.